Welcome to round 5 of the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. This weekend, we're going to be taking a look at some of the fastest sim racers across 4 geographical regions. Today, we are going to see the EMEA and APAC regions compete respectively, one after the other, in 3 completely different racing disciplines. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm John Sargent, your host, and joining me, as always, is the absolutely mesmerizing Luke Crane. Luke, how's it going? Happy Friday.
What a delicious introduction. Happy Friday to you as well. I'm good. It's the final opportunity for these drivers to qualify for our semi-finals. It is now top 3 or bust, effectively. There's going to be a few drivers in and around the top 3 that can qualify via our point system. But mainly, there's a lot of new names here, John, that have coming here for the first time, and they have to get top 3. They cannot rely on being outside of that top 3. There's going to be chances taken, that's for sure. Should prove to be very exciting indeed.
I cannot wait to talk about some of the strategy involving that. We'll save that for a little bit later in the show. For now, let's talk a little bit about the format. So, Luke, what are our new viewers expecting today?
Well, today we indeed have qualification before every single race. We're on iRacing for the first 2. Indeed, that is the Stock Car Challenge and the Dallara IR01, the Open Wheel Challenge. And then we head to ACC for the Sports Car Challenge. The qualifying for the iRacing races are both 5 minutes. They will be lone qualifying. What that means is they're on the server on their own, effectively, which means that they don't have anyone else interfering in them. They cannot get slipstream as well. When it goes to ACC, everybody is out on circuit together. So that means they can get slipstream. If someone makes a mistake in front of them, it could cost them time. And with only a 10-minute qualifying session, oh boy, that could be a huge factor indeed. Then they head to the race. Points are awarded from 1st down to 30th. So drivers who've been here from month 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5, who've been accumulating points, they will still want to get that result, make sure they guarantee themselves a chance of getting through. But it is all about that top 3. Top 3 qualify for our semi-finals, and also drivers who may have already qualified, if they get in that top 3, they can potentially block someone out of qualifying.
And that's the most important thing, right? Place top 3 and you get into the semi-finals next week. So racers have been competing here for the last 5 months to qualify for this tournament. This is their last chance to do so. Get top 3 this weekend? No problem. You move on. If you didn't get top 3, hopefully you've already accumulated enough points over the course of the season to qualify for next week.
Absolutely. You know, it's been very, very tough, and it's kind of been more sporadic for these drivers in terms of they've had loads of time and they could sort of do 1 week on and then a week off. It goes straight to the semi-finals next week. You are against the best of the best in terms of this competition. It really does ramp up the pressure for sure.
And now we are coming down to the wire. Place top 3 or get enough points. You now know what you have to do. But moving into today's races, we're going to see a lot of different action because we've got 3 different racetracks and 3 very different disciplines of racing on show today. So what's going on here, Luke?
Well, first of all, we've got stock car in the NASCAR Cup Series Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, and we are at the home of oval racing, Daytona International Speedway. It is very wide, it is very fast. Expect 3 wide, potentially 27 wide. Why not? You're going to be able to cover fields with a blanket. It is going to come down to the very final corner. Oh, it's going to be incredible. Then we've got race 2, the open wheel Dallara IR01 at Interlagos, home of the Center S's. This track has got absolutely everything. And talking about a track with absolutely everything, is Silverstone for the McLaren 720S GT3 on ACC as well. Home of Maggots and Beckett, some of the best corners in the world of motorsports. Interlagos and Silverstone, very similar. And then we've got Daytona, which, well, that's what's going to kick us off here. It's incredible stuff to watch for sure.
And on the build up to this, of course, over the last month, we've had hundreds of drivers attempting to qualify for their chance to be featured on today's broadcast, but ultimately only the top 30 can be invited for each of our racing disciplines. So being the last month, I'm expecting our fields to be pretty jam-packed. We're going to start off here with stock car, Luke. Who are some of the names we want to be watching out for this week?
Well, in the Stock Car Challenge, of course, you can see the little blue cup next to 2 of their names, David Toth and Daniel Thomas. They both make it back for the final monthly final, which is fantastic strategy if they race. Again, we've seen people qualify multiple times and then not actually do the race. But as a lot of very known sim racers from around the world have now signed up this month, but they haven't participated previously. I will explain a little bit more what that means in a minute. The only way through really today for those drivers is through the top 3. Daniel Sedgley, ever present in the Open Wheel Challenge, has scraped through by placing 30th. Top 3 seeds this month are actually Matt Caruana, Gail Valera, and Luke McKeown. none of them have already qualified. So that is, yeah, very, very interesting indeed. Daytona will provide that opportunity potentially for those 3 drivers. There's a lot to digest from race 1, and this is just scratching the surface of what is to come from this weekend's action. Next up, though, is the Open Wheel Challenge, which this week takes us to Interlagos in Brazil, as we stated already. And only 1 driver has already qualified for next week's semi-finals, who is indeed back. That is Andreas Henkel. But that does not mean this field is not competitive, because, oh boy, do we have some talent here. Freshly crowned Dallara IR01 world champion, Peter Berryman. He is here, and alongside him is his teammate, Johan Haaf. They will be using each other to get through the first time of asking. The fact that it is their first attempt does pile on the pressure, though, as a small mistake and their G challenge will be as over as soon as it began. This is for sure the strongest grid in terms of pace from P1 to P30 we have had so far this season. And around a very racy circuit such as Interlagos with plenty of overtaking opportunities, this will be a cracker to watch. If that was not enough, we now have a top-tier grid for you over on ACC for the Sports Car Challenge. Today we head to the home of Racing Silverstone with its long straights, wide nature, and Maggots and Beckett's to contend with. The stage is set for an amazing final monthly final. James Baldwin, who pound for pound may be the very best sim racer out there, alongside, for me, Joshua Rogers. He is qualified for this month, but it's his first time of qualifying. More vitally, George Boothby and Tariq Adam must have seen this, because they have come back, obviously previously qualified, and it makes sense for them to indeed race today. So let's just explain what that means. Basically, top 3 will automatically qualify today for the semi-finals. But if one of the already qualified drivers finishes in that top 3, they block someone who indeed maybe finishes in 4th. They block them from qualifying. So only drivers who have been accumulating points over the last 5 months will qualify. So right now, for instance, let's just hypothetically talk here. George Boothby wins. Tariq Adam finishes in 2nd. And then we've got Leo Boulay, who finishes in 3rd spot. If James Baldwin finishes in 4th, because it's his first month, he would not qualify. So, yeah, huge opportunity here for the drivers. And strategy is going to be key this weekend, John.
It absolutely is, and you know what, you say key, it's just straight up going to be brutal for the drivers that haven't been competing month in, month out. Yes, we've got some world-class talent here, but it's world-class talent with 1 shot. At the end of the day, sim racing is a contact sport. It might be entirely not their fault. They could get taken out and thus not be in with the chance to make it to the semi-finals. That's the risk they're taking here.
Yeah, it's exactly that. But ultimately, it's better to take that risk and not turn up at all, and then definitely not go through. So, yeah, ultimately, sure, you know, not being here, you don't go through. It's a fact. We're in the qualifiers here. 22 drivers. This is going to be absolutely incredible. IFL Dano makes it in once again here. But it will be super, super interesting to see how well this goes down. We're on board then with Eke David from Hungary. There's always a Hungarian in sim racing. That is always a fact.
Yeah, I don't think it's a proper esports competition unless we actually get them in here, but it's good to have them here. We want to remind you guys as well, we're collecting tweets from you all weekend long using the hashtag Logitech G Challenge. So send us your questions, let us know who you're cheering for, let us know what you think about the show in general, and make sure to ping those up on Twitter. We'll be taking a look at some of those tweets later on in the broadcast and throughout the weekend.
I want some marks out of 10 for my hair, maybe my shirt choice, maybe my complexion. Like, those are the sorts of things we're looking for.
11, 11, 3, 11.
I'm just
sorry, we weren't
with
doing
3.
it live. Sorry. Okay, no, never mind. Inside voice, John, inside voice. 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in the qualifying here. Very quick session, to be fair, but it's not exactly like they're going to take several minutes to get around the track. What I'm looking for is how unbelievably close this grid is going to be, and given that this is the final opportunity to qualify for the semi-finals, I'm expecting 10 cars at least within a tenth of each other.
Yeah, this is probably the easier of the circuits in terms of there's no real braking or letting off the gas or anything really. It is just stay as close to that yellow line as possible. You may see a couple of cars go down onto the apron across the line, but it is just flat out from start to finish. It is just all about making sure that you keep hold of that momentum. It's David then who is P1 as it stands. Bestalon is currently in 13th position, who we're on board with right now. But IFL Dano, he's here most weekends or most monthly finals. He is currently the fastest and the man to beat.
Now, if you want to go ahead and shave a couple of thousandths off your lap time on Daytona International, I'll confess, I'm not the best person to ask, but it's a pretty iconic circuit anyway. Let's go ahead and take a look at where the drivers are racing this weekend. The Daytona International Speedway is home to the Daytona 500, the opening event and the most prestigious race in NASCAR. It is one of the most well-known ovals on the planet. Let's get stuck in. Even though you want to be hugging the inside line at Daytona as much as possible, you might want to consider starting your session on the higher line and building up speed, because it takes quite a while to get to full speed on Daytona, and every bit of momentum will count. Keep an eye out for end of race overtakes as well. A lot of final lap overtakes happen coming out of turn 4 because cars are just able to get their noses in front by the finish line. Remember, anyone can race, and you could be in our monthly round races broadcast on Twitch with a shot at making it to the grand finals where you could win money can't buy prizes. Visit logitechgchallenge.com to enter and see you on track. Just over 20 seconds left to qualify now, and David Toth currently top of the timing boards, but all could change in the dying seconds. If only we had a Daytona 24-hour winner to talk to about how these drivers are going to be contesting on track. Oh wait, we do.
Well, yeah, I've not at the actual oval with the stock car, but in GT3, yeah, the team managed to get a dub last year with the likes of Matt Malone.
Best team name.
Mitt Norton, Team Woo is amazing. Mitt Norton, Chris McDade, we had Dan Camish as well. We had Shave as well. It was a good time.
I imagine, 24 hours. I mean, I've done like 4 or 6 hour kart races, but never longer than that. And I can only imagine, especially in sim racing, where you're just having to be properly on it from a concentration point of view every second. That must be hella draining. But let's take a quick look now at the track conditions moving into the race. A warm, toasty 40 degrees centigrade, give or take, with ambient temperature at about 25 degrees. To our fellow North Americans, that would be fellow North Americans. What am I even saying there? That's comfortable room temperature plus a degree or 2. Basically no breeze here. Nice, cloudy, very, very chilled out. Essentially ideal racing conditions. Yeah,
well, already John's coming out with things like fellow North Americans. We've got 4 broadcasts this weekend, John. I'd like to remind you at the start of every first one each month, this is going to be a long weekend.
I'm sneaking the crazy in early, Luke. If I get it all out of the way now, maybe we'll be okay later on. Or it gets worse, one or the other.
Yeah, well, we'll deal with it as it comes, just like the racing, pretty much.
Yep.
Well, here we go then. We've got ourselves some racing action here at Daytona. The pace car will take us away. It is indeed going to be pedal to the metal. A few things that you want to be watching out for here. You want to be watching out for drivers trying to pull out of the toe of the car in front, because ultimately the engine can explode. The oil can indeed boil and go over the top. And the engine goes absolutely mental. Valero then P1 with David Toth then in P2. We've then got Matt J in P3 with Luke McKeown in P4. Daniel J is in P5 along with their brothers. Marco Iafaldano then is in 6th position. Vincent Villardel is in 7th. Antoine Chaignon is in 8th position. Alexandre Besailon is in 9th. And then Holger Klumer is in 10th. Sorry, John, I'll just take the first 10. My bad.
Hey, let's do that. Let's go ahead and move into our 11th through 20th. So we're starting here on row number 6. In 11th and 12th, we got Dave Stedman and Jorge R. I feel like the DJs are out in force today. We then got oh my God, I'm going to guess that's David, but it might not be. In 13th, Andrew Roos lining up alongside him. Jorge Curto in 15th alongside Henrik Biela. We've seen him here before as well. Thierry Vossier and Radecki Gregors will be in 17th and 18th respectively. And lining up on row 10 of the grid, we've got Sebastian Detweiler and Urpo Holopa.
Absolutely. And then finally, last but not least, Ivan Kashkin makes our 21 drivers on the grid. And I'm quite impressed that we've got the R brothers here, all 3 of them on the same grid. This is going to be incredible.
Looking forward now to the drivers forming up on the grid. We've got just moments before we move into this 25-lap race on Daytona. From a strategy point of view, Luke, is it as straightforward as be fast, get out in front, stay there, or is it going to be a little more complex than that on a track this wide?
this is going to be very similar to Charlotte. It's going to be keep yourself involved in the race right until the last lap. Position yourself in a position to be there or thereabouts. You know, I think we're potentially going to see a really good race with the Europeans. It tends to be North America that takes this or steals the show with the stock car for sure. But maybe we are going to see indeed the professionals go at it and show us how it should be done here. But again, expect there to be a big group at the front and people being very, very patient. If you're in and around maybe, I don't know, top 8 on the final lap, there's a chance you can get to that top 3 for sure. You've got to make sure you get that run at the right time. And also, you've got to get the race gods with you as well. You've got to be lucky a little bit as well. You've got to hope that the doors open up for you. You've got to hope you're not blocked off. And also, there's going to be a couple of occasions where you've got to try and work with the people around you as well. And sometimes the people around you aren't willing to work with you. So, yeah, there's a lot of factors here. Again, a lot of people are like, oval racing so easy compared to road racing. Oh, it's a whole different challenge. Oh boy, is it a different challenge. But I am super excited to see how this goes down.
You've basically just said most of racing here is Mystic Meg. You just have to work out when the right time is and pray to the gods and hope that the right time is in fact the right time. I get the feeling it's a hell of a lot more challenging. And I mean, working out while you're in the cockpit of a car when the right time actually is must be infinitely harder than us looking on from the observer view.
Yeah, there's not many times where people... I would love to have Casey Kerwin here right now because he would be backing me up. He's an oval great. He'd be turning around and go, yeah, you're right. Just get yourself in the right position and pray at this point.
The right place at the right time.
It is Toner, baby. We're about to go green light racing. Here we go, ladies and gentle cars. It is time for some Daytona action. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Waiting for that green light to go across the line. We will go here. They'll wait to go for the last possible opportunity. And we are green light racing here for the final monthly final. Already 3 wide there between the 22, the 88, and the number 4. And, well, that's not really advised early in this race, but, you know, these drivers tend to do what they want each and every time. Again, it is still 3 wide. The number 4 car will get, I would imagine, hung out to dry and will want to try and filter in. And actually, by the looks of things, by it being 2 by 2 here, the number 4 car will more than likely end up going right to the back of the pack here, unless he can find himself a little opportunity to sneak in. He does, right at the back there, second row from the back, and sneaks in. Valero leads to tough. Valero in the number 33, though, the low line looking very strong indeed. Look at that. As soon as you get out of the toe of anyone in front of you, if you make a slight mistake, get offline, you can see their Toth's gone from 2nd down to 5th right now, and he's going to keep dropping because the low line is very quick indeed right now.
Doesn't look like, anyone on the high line is going to be getting a word in edgeways anytime soon. Then again, it's only the start of the race and there's plenty of time. The Ants started marching 2 by 2, but even that has dropped off. Valero looking like he's settling in a pretty comfortable pace. To be honest, all the front runners are. And now it's a matter of potentially waiting for the right opportunity. You can see them bunching up, just trying to work together to gain on the leader. And then it's all about spotting the mistake or timing when it's correct.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be too surprised if it ends up going 2 wide again near the front of the pack. Someone may get a little bit impatient around sort of the mid-pack and start to push forward. You see Toth there just dropping like a fly, really, or dropping like a stone, should I say. He's now down to P8, I think, still on that high line. He's the leader of the high line. No one really willing to push from behind, I would imagine. So realistically here, if he wants to get himself into that top 3 today, he needs to just drop down into that little pocket of space. Again, it doesn't really matter to him too much because he's already through, but ultimately if he wants to be up there and blocking other people from qualifying, he needs to get a little bit of a move on. Valero, they're looking really good. Caruana, who was one of the top 3 in terms of the seeds coming into this, and Luke McKeown, they're front 3, and they are looking absolutely imperious right now. Again, just keep it in the straight and narrow. Just keep it like this right now. This is a perfect scenario for them right now, John. Just single file, nothing to really worry about. They've only got 1 car to worry about in terms of having a run. Potentially a car from 2 cars back can get a real nice run on them, but they can maneuver and block them off. And yeah, it's a really good position to be in right now, being only 1 wide.
So if the front runners here, Luke, if they don't make any mistakes and they're effectively single filing it through most of the race, aside from hoping that the car in front of you makes a mistake, what are some of the things that you can do in position right now to try and gear up and an overtaking opportunity a little bit later on?
Well, you really are hoping for someone in front of you to push out onto the high side, and you follow them and push them. So
right.
With
so
the
enough cars
here,
do that.
Yeah, exactly that. You know,
yeah.
if the front 2 stay in single file and then 4 cars decide to work together, you'll see that the front 2 will go into the mid pack very quickly indeed. But it's all about being patient. Like, I don't think anybody's going to be too worried here. Toff, by the way, is now filtered into the low side, and ironically, the high side has started working together now, and they're actually moving forward. So, yeah, David Toff is going to be furious here. But right now, Valero, Caruana, and indeed McKeown, they were the top 3 seeds coming into it.
Yep.
None of them are qualified yet. So this going to the form book as it stands, but you just be aware of a group maybe forming behind that are willing to work together. That's what Valero, Caruana, McKeown, Thomas, they all have to be willing to at some point go 2 wide, potentially 3 wide, and work as a group. Almost like a peloton in cycling, but ultimately from the front, there's contact there between
6th and 7th.
It was a 6th and 7th? Were they not a little bit further back than that? That's completely killed the momentum of the number 33 here.
Oh my God, he's hit someone else as well.
Oh, that's going to be a big one here. Oh, just absolutely shot through a gap there. I think he's going into the pits. His race is over. But, he comes back on. It's a bit of rallycross happening here as well. So the number 33...
Wait, but that's Valero.
That's Valero.
What?
So Valero has made a mistake here out of nowhere. Hopefully we get to see that actually be replayed here, because...
I think so.
That's come out of absolutely nowhere.
I'm not sure what happened, because I'm pretty confident. I was counting cars back from the front, and I thought that was 6th and 7th. But if that was Valero, that means he must have made a mistake earlier on or on the previous lap to drop him into that position so that that collision could even have taken place in the first place. I'm not sure what went on there, or if we happen to be seeing another car. I think we're going to have to get a second look at that. But that was... very interesting sequential contact. It wasn't a big pile up, but one engagement led to the next, led to the next, led to the next.
Yeah, well, Valero still seems to be out in the lead here, and there was 2 sets of 33. Yeah, so we've got 230. Maybe we've just made a mistake. Maybe it's a 32. I think it might be Illman actually. So it might be the number 32 there.
It would make sense if it was Illman, to be fair.
It did look like the number 33 to me, though. Like,
it did. Really did. I thought it was 2 and 33. And what's interesting is on the leaderboard on the left, I'm not actually sure we have a car number 2 in existence.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing it's done. It's absolutely killed that second group who were 2 wide now. As you can see, it's 8 drivers now at the front here. It's going to be almost impossible for anyone to catch them. And actually, Toff, who did drop down into the inside line, who was on the outside line trying to get something to work, the outside line started to work once he dropped down low, but ironically, now he did make the right decision. He's at the back of a group of 8, and this will be the group now until the end of this race. There's no chance of the group behind catching up.
So on lap number 8 out of 25 now, and the front, well, the cars have finally moved between several different groups. It's not just one group anymore. Here we are taking a look at Gregorz. Data-driven insights powered by Splunk. A little bit more data here. Started 18th and currently racing in 7th. So having an absolutely fantastic race, but while he's in the front group, he's not quite in the top 3 just yet. We'll be keeping an eye on whether Radecki is going to be able to make up a couple more places in the ensuing laps.
Daniel Thomas has just jumped up high. I wonder if he made a mistake there. It's one of 2 things. He's made a mistake and he's got out of everybody's way. Yeah, okay, he's filtered onto the back of the group here. And ultimately, things like that have given the opportunity for the second group to close up. So I didn't think that was going to be a possibility, but I think just because Thomas made that mistake, it's kind of made the field in the front group spread out a little bit, which has given the opportunity for the group behind. So now we're going to be looking at sort of 10, 11, 12 cars. Yeah, they've closed up here. So I'm wondering now whether Thomas seems slow. Or is he now trying to form a group here? I'm wondering if he's actually communicating here, and now they're going to work together with some friends that he has in this session, because they are accumulating here in a big group, and they will swamp this single file group if they do not start working together here. So look at this now. Look at this 2 wide. It's 6 cars chasing down another 6 cars, but you will see them close up very quickly indeed.
This is really interesting stuff indeed. If we even get more cars joining the high line here and saying, guys, we can actually do this if we work together, that'll be fantastic, but we need to see them join quick. The longer they bicker like this, I'm worried the gap might end up growing instead of closing up. The next lap or 2 and where these cars go is going to be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, the first couple of laps, it is going to be a bit scrappy, if we're going to say. But then once they've got to take that time to learn each other's driving style, because, you know, as much as there may be a couple of people who do, you know, race each other or do understand how they race, there's going to be other ones here that you're kind of just leaning on. Now, that's good. They're fine. Don't worry. It's just he was just getting out of the way to make sure that there was no potential contact. Top, they're just going up on the high side. You can see the gap is being maintained to the group in front pretty nicely. But ultimately, as soon as you become a little bit uncomfortable, look at that. Look how quickly they close up here.
Wow.
By the way, look at straight onto the back. But once you feel a little bit uncomfortable with the group of cars, and this is brilliant here, so Thomas has dropped back in the order to then go and work with Toth, and look at them on the high side then. You can see that Toth is just trying to squeeze down low. That could create contact there. 5 then has to get out of it, and ultimately Thomas, who was working with Toth here, and Toth has just used and abused him. He's got down into the low side, it's gone single file, and Thomas, unfortunately for him, he needed Toth to keep going with that momentum, and they could have maybe made up to the sort of top 4, top 3, but ultimately Thomas now is, what, 4 cars behind Toth? So yeah, it can just change so quickly. Back marker then indeed taking the high line. That's the number 40 by the looks of things. But ultimately there, you've got to feel sorry for Thomas because he dropped back, tried to help a group close up to the leaders. They have indeed closed up to the leaders, and then he's just been dropped just like a bad smell.
Yeah, that's brutal. Absolutely brutal. After helping each other and trying to slingshot yourselves into a better position, one of these cars sadly will not be able to taste the fruits of their labor. Never mind though, lap 12 out of 25, and it's definitely more than 8 cars now. The second group has seemed to catch up to the first, so we're seeing a little bit closer racing as we move into the halfway point of this race. But all in all, fairly clean and orderly so far.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't think that was going to be a possibility, to be honest, the second group catching up. But with Thomas making a mistake, it kind of just cut the lead group up a little bit. So they weren't working together as much as they probably would have been wanting to. It just opened a door then for the second group to indeed just make some advancements to the lead. So this makes it interesting moving forward towards the final few laps, or the second half of this race. Remember, Thomas and Toth, they've both already qualified. So they've already booked their tickets to next week's semi-finals. You can see there the 21 and the 76 there, a little bit of bump drafting. Toth then is going to try and use the momentum, try and get up into that top 5 now. I don't think there's a gap to indeed filter downwards. Is anyone? Oh, there's contact there. He's put into a wall, and that is not ideal. That's the number 68, so that's Holger Kluner. Wasn't able to hold that low line. Tyres now are going to start to struggle as well. But ultimately, David Toth is out of the equation now. He's just been put into a wall. He'll have damage that I very, very much doubt he's going to be able to recover from that. But ultimately, the front 3 have kind of been given an opportunity to drive, well, not drive away. They've been given a bit of breath of fresh air so they can just chill for maybe a lap here. But ultimately, again, it's just going to close back up. The front 3, you can see definitely, well, especially the front 2, they are bump drafting their way here. But again, look how quickly they're able to catch up from behind. It is still Valero, it is still Caruana, and it is still indeed Makia. And I am fully aware that I've said Caruana or Caruana is named different about 8 different times now.
Caruana, I think, but we've got a quantum pay replay now of that bit of contact that sadly I think Bob David Toth wasn't out of the equation. Let's take a look at what happened here. I'm fairly confident, Luke, that this might have been a tire screaming situation. I don't think he was consciously trying to move that far. It was less than a car width he moved.
Yeah, no, it was the yellow line. So he's just got caught on the yellow line there, and it's just sent him up high. So he would have lost the rear ever so slightly. We didn't see the car go sideways, but he would have felt that through his force feedback. Yeah. And ultimately checked up high, put Toth into the wall, and there is Toth. That is race over. He will not be catching up to the pack here. He'll be hoping for a big one, effectively. The big one at Toner. I'm sure we're going to see one of them this weekend. That's for sure. But yeah, if we go back up to the leaders, it is Valero, Caruana, and then Makia still the front 3, and they have been the front 3 since the start of this month in terms of qualifying. You can see that Thomas is still trying to get something going at the back there. There's always one that tries to get something working up the high side, and again, you need to have some mates at this point. So last time he made some friends, they completely ruined his day.
What do you mean?
Leave me alone.
What do you mean David Toth hasn't got enough time to do an Octavia Rondoletto? I'm sure he has. Let's see it.
Yeah, definitely not on this circuit, that's for sure. Imagine the scenes. Yeah, you'd have to have a different engine in the car to be gaining like a second a lap or gaining any time on a group working together right now.
Right.
IF Aldano started 6th down into 7th position right now. You can see he's in gear 4. They'll be in gear 4 from as soon as they can, and then that's it till the end of the race. So they will not be shifting out of that gear at all. It is absolutely flat out here. The lead group maybe 12, 13 cars at this stage. And like I said, if you can be in and around sort of the top 8 with 1-2 laps to go, then ultimately you've got a chance to get into that top 3. But with David Toth out of the equation, Thomas effectively at the back of this group, by the way, they're the only 2 drivers who've already got that blue trophy next to their name. There are 3 open spots available here. So we're about to start to see it get a little bit fruity here, John. So it's been nice and content. They've been in a nice straight line. They've been working together. All of a sudden, it's going to be all out on the run. It's going to be like a battle royale Daytona style. And it will be the last 3 standing, I would imagine. Oh, here we go. Oh, big move. 97. Oh, that's terrible from the 97. That's a huge mistake from the 97. IFL Dano. Oh, there is the big one. Well, that's half the field taken out here. IFL Dano then, he's run up high and ultimately made a mistake. He's left the door wide open up the inside, and I'm not too sure who it was behind him. It might have been Basilon, the number 22. It could well have been Basilon in the number 22. Again, I'm going to have to get that checked out once again. He's seized the opportunity by seeing the hole open. Of course, if you see a chance to move up the order and then leave a driver on the high side on their own, they're going to drop down to the back of the order. It's almost their race over. IFL Dano then tried to be really greedy and recapture that position, and ultimately just driven down on him. So yeah, really poor from someone who's been a stalwart this season so far. IFL Dano making a huge mistake there.
And I'm sure you can all guess what I'm about to say next. We have a Quantum Pay replay of the big crash at Tona. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened in this race so far. This is from the point of view of Bisayon indeed, and oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, for sure. You can see that IFL Dano's made the mistake. The door was open. He has every opportunity to go in there. And really, it's kind of a 50-50 there. It was kind of not really wide enough unless you use the yellow line or below. And with that cambered part of the circuit, you can't go on the apron there. It just completely kick you with the rear of your car out right, and you're going to be flipping. It's going to be like Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby at that point. Ultimately, IFL Dano had to kind of take his medicine in that situation and just leave the door open a bit wider. They both got involved in an accident, and everyone else behind is just kind of like, oh, you know, they probably had half a second to react, and in that half a second they're like, oh no, oh, this is happening, this is, race over. It would have felt like about 4 hours, but yeah, their race is done.
Well, speaking of 4 hours, we've got another angle of that crash as well, so let's go ahead and take a look at it from a different point of view. This is more the bird's eye view here. I think, you know what, no one touched the yellow line until after the contact was made. I would argue there was enough room there. I don't feel like Bisayon did that much wrong.
You've got to hold a very tight line. You have to hold a car's width of the line. He's the one who has checked up a little bit. IFL Dano ultimately was the one that made the mistake, but yeah, I think it's just scrappy from both drivers, really.
Sure.
You know, those two are at fault, and ultimately there's a lot of people's G challenges over now because of that. It was something that was avoidable. Is it something that happens at Daytona all the time?
Oh yeah.
Is it something that happens in oval racing all the time?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So it is what it is. We chalk it up to it being a Tona race. But the front 6, they're not too worried about it right now. And the front 6 here, ladies and gentlemen, none of them have qualified as of yet. So half of these drivers are going to make it through to our semi-finals next week. We've got 4 to go.
And there we go, Crummy across the line next to make it 4 laps to go. At the moment, it's Valero Caruana and McKeown in those podium positions. I am all eyes on number 76, Vincent Balodel. Is he going to find a way to get past, pip him to the post, and try and make it onto the podium? And you've also then got the 2 cars behind him as well. That's Kluna and Grzegorz. Any of these drivers could make it through, but the one I'm looking at is Balodel.
Yeah, he's in the prime position. I think the one person who's not in a very good position right now is Valero, in my opinion. Like, he's the one who really cannot do anything other than just drive flat out. He hasn't got any choices. It is just hold the low line.
He can get past, though. That's fine, right? Like, it's top 3. He doesn't have to win.
No, but if the 5 cars all decide to go together around the high side and he doesn't block them off in time, he's the one who's going to lose out. He is literally the only one in a pretty bad position right now. And as you can see here, he is potentially going to use a back marker. So this is something that happens in the world of NASCAR. So a back marker now has got involved here. So Valero effectively is not the lead car anymore. Sorry, hold on. No, Valero is the lead car. Who just closed up? Sorry, it's the number 3. So Caruana just closed up and pushed him along. Sorry, it looked like a backmarker just got involved there. That is something that can happen. They can indeed, the backmarkers don't have to get out of the way. They can get involved in the race. They're a lap down. They won't get the spoils. But as you can see, they're threading the needle. That's not ideal. Again, they just forced a backmarker, the purple car there, to make a decision and go onto the apron. That could have been all of them cleaned out. Right. So that's how much momentum is. Look how much faster they're going here. Again, the car may be a little bit damaged, but just momentum by working in a group of cars makes it so difficult for anyone to catch up. And you see one of the backmarkers just trying to hang on to the back of this 6. I think he might be all right here, actually. So here we go then. We are now heading on to the final couple of laps of this race. Across the line we go. We're on lap 24 of 25. We're now going to start to see them go too wide. And well, can Valero hang on? Valero, Caruana, and McKeown. Those are the top 3. They've been the fastest 3 thus far in this G Challenge coming to this point. I'll tell you what, they are streaking away. The group behind are trying to work together 2 by 2. But as you can see here, Valero's still leading out, and they're all pushing each other here. Oh, no, he's pushed too hard. Valero's out. Valero's G Challenge is done and dusted. Caruana's got too close. McKeown now takes the lead in this race. He holds the high line here, but because of that contact, now all of a sudden it gets really spicy. So the 3 cars behind are really closing up. Valero has led for 24 laps, and that is his G Challenge over. The white flag will pop out now here at Daytona, and it is going to be Caruana and McKeown. That are the 2 lead drivers. There it is. McKeown does take the lead. Cluna then is in 3rd position. Gregors is in 4th. We've then got Bilaldo in 5th position. Did Valero manage to hold on to a P6? Oh, has he got back up to the... He has. I think he... Oh, I don't know if he's actually survived that. Imagine if he had done. But we have got no time to be worried about that right now. It comes down to these 5 drivers here. Who's going to get those top 3 positions? McKeown, Caruana, Holger Cluna are in those prime positions. The back marker gets involved here. And, well, you were saying to look out for him. Bilaldo is going to have a very good run here. Top 3 are just about clear. Bilaldo's found a little bit of room on the inside. He's getting squeezed down onto the apron. There is a big one. Bilaldo then is pit maneuvered. P3. So Cluna's now out of this. As we come across the line, then it's going to be nip and tuck for the positions here. But I think you'll find that it is going to be McKeown, Caruana, and Bilaldo. Bilaldo, I don't think, did too much wrong there. I think, indeed, Cluna's driven down on him. But what a frantic last couple of laps that was. Woo.
Oh, my. Literally on the last lap, Bilaldo manages to sneak in that podium finish. Bear in mind, of course, this was obviously a very eventful race. Everything is subject to stewards' confirmations, but the podium as it stands, Luke McKeown, Matt Caruana, and Vincent Bilaldo. What a ridiculous race. I think that final crash you might have another Quantum Pay replay for. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened there.
Here we go.
Oh, no, this is the big one.
Yeah, this is the lead car. So Valero led from start to finish, and they were just bump drafting each other. They were actually working together, and they just got too close. And unfortunately, just got driven through. So Caruana has just been just driven through the back of Valero. Again, there was no malice. There's no intent in that. It's just, the car in front has maybe just moved left or right slightly in front of you. So again, you can see on camera here. So they're literally, when you bump draft another car in front of you, you've got to be square on the bumper. It becomes very difficult when you go around corners, especially in a straight line. If a car moves left or right to block and you're having contact there, you're then just going to be a passenger. There's no aero to stick the car to the ground with these stock cars. It is game over.
What an absolutely electric last couple of laps to that race. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the final results, courtesy of Quantum Pay. Luke McKeown is going to be taking the victory there, and at least provisionally, we've got Matt Caruana in 2nd place and Vincent Bilaldo in 3rd. Behind them are the pair of Grzegorz and Cluna, who were basically glued bumper to bumper for the entirety of that race. Gail Valero and Thierry Vossier will be 6th and 7th. Urpo Holapa and David Top and Henrik Bieler will complete our top 10. And then after them, we've got David Eek, Jorge Sepulveda, Antoine Chagnon, Ivan Kashkin, and Jorge Navarro. Dave Stedman, Andrew Roos, Alexandra Pisayon, who was up front for so much of that race, Marco Valdano, and Daniel Thomas will complete the top 20. Not something you expected us to say frankly, with a couple of laps left to go. And then closing out our final results are Adam Illman and Sebastian Detweiler. So those were our final stock car results sponsored by Splunk. What an incredible, especially the second half of that race that was, Luke.
Oh, 100%. And well, we're about to visit some of the highlights of that race. There were so many. Again, 3 wide straight off the bat here. There was no bones about this being the final, monthly final. Again, it does look like number 30. It still looks like the number 33 to me. I'm telling you now, that car has the number 33.
It does. It really does.
That's ridiculous. I'm sure it does. Again, this is where we see David Toth. I think Toth had sort of drove down and then the contact forced then the number 18 up high. That was a really strange one there. This one here, the more I look at it, the more I say IFL Dano isn't the fault there. Yeah, the more I say, yeah, that's a big one though. Look at that. So many G challenges there. Just over.
Pinball.
A couple of sim racing concussions as well. And here we go. So this is the key moment here. Valero looking gold in the qualify. So there we go. So they're trying to go round a back marker. They go up high, man. And then they just move down low. And unfortunately for Valero, the car behind him probably lent on the fact that he knew Valero was going to move down. If he's touching him, then ultimately there could be a spin. So, it's something that would be not intentionally done, but kind of knew what he was doing.
That is so unfortunate. Don't forget, though, the drivers on track aren't the only ones that could be winning today. Join the race yourself. Use !giveaway in Twitch chat and visit the link for a chance to win some fantastic Logitech G gear. So do that via the giveaway in Twitch chat. Make sure you get yourself entered this evening. A massive thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for helping us put on this event. That was just the first of 6 races we've got going for you tonight. That was the stock car race. Absolutely incredible. And if you thought that was exciting, we might even get something that'll top that. I don't know, but we could at Interlagos in the open wheel segment coming up straight after this break. See you then. welcome back to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. We are now moving to Sao Paulo and Interlagos. The drivers are racing the Dallara IR01 cars around this breathtaking and iconic circuit. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. We've got another qualifying session on board. But first, if you're trying to figure out how to get better yourself, take a look at some of these tips and tricks that we've put together on this racetrack. Interlagos, the iconic motorsport venue that has hosted the Formula One Brazilian Grand Prix since 1973. We will be testing your skills in Sao Paulo. Let's get stuck into the lap. The Senna S across turns 1 and 2 are a pair of alternating downward turns that have different attack angles and inclinations. The car will constantly be shifting its balance, and drivers will have to be able to read this very well indeed to get their fastest times through here. Ferradura, or the horseshoe, is a tricky double apex right-hander that tightens up. Drivers want to try and maintain some speed through here before hitting the brakes hard, as the corners subsequent to this are the slowest on the track. Drivers can treat turns 13, 14, and 15 as one long straight to really build up some speed across the start-finish line. Your exit out of Junsao at turn 13 will be critical, because any time lost here will hurt even more since it's an uphill climb to the end of the lap. Remember, anyone can race, and you could be in our monthly round races broadcast on Twitch with a shot at making it to the grand finals, where you could win money can't buy prizes. So, what are you waiting for? Visit logitechgchallenge.com to enter, and we'll see you on the track. Okay, I'll do it. Welcome back to qualifying here. Just over a minute and a half left, and a little bit of a scary moment. Just the tiniest bit of the slide down the back there. Not 100% sure who we're spectating at the moment, but Peter Berriman, you were talking about him earlier, Luke, on provisional pole.
Yeah, Peter Berriman is the driver to watch out for. That is for certain. He is the absolute standout. He is the world champion with this car as well. We are not going to get to see another lap here. That will be the qualifying over, but it's 1.5 tenths of a second. And yeah, you might be thinking, oh, that's not a lot of time at all when you've got someone like Johan Haaf, who is just as accomplished as Peter Berriman. They are incredible drivers. Well, actually, I tell you what, it's Tamas Simon, who's in second spot now. It's always a Hungarian, I'm telling you. It's always a Hungarian. He's now second position. It is so close at the top here. And this is going to be a phenomenal race. As you said in your little tips and tricks video, John, it is out of turn 13 all the way down to turn number 1. It is a big, long straight. Huge opportunities for overtaking. And then on the exit of the center S's, if you can nail the center S's and get on the power nice and early, there's also an overtaking opportunity down the straight out of turn number 3. So, yeah, excited to see how this goes down.
I'm really looking forward to seeing some on-track action here. There's a decent amount of scope for overtakes, and if a driver makes a mistake, like you just saw right there, that comfortably leaves a gap up the inside for someone to get alongside, and this is Bachmann. But bear in mind, this massive straight all the way down the start finish is pulling into the pits now, but you can imagine another car having a straight line advantage all the way up that hill. It just compounds that mistake at the, I guess what we would call, from a practical point of view, the final corner. Absolutely devastating if you make a mistake there.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. You know, that is going to be the winner and loser of this race. That keeps consistently nailing that final corner. Slipstream's a massive factor with these high downforce cars as well. So yeah, it remains to be seen how well it goes down for them.
So qualifying is now over. Let's go ahead and take a look at the track conditions here at Interlagos. Would you look at that? They're almost identical, if not completely identical, to Daytona. 40 degrees, 39.71 to be precise. Track temperature, a lovely ambient temperature of just over 25, just hot enough to get your hat on, but still cool enough that you're not going to be sweating to bits. A light breeze and a cloudy forecast means everything is nice and chill. We're getting ready for an absolutely delightful race here.
We are indeed. Should be good. Super excited for this one. Again, these are some of the very best drivers in the world in terms of this car, in terms of iRacing.
Right.
High downforce, seeing two teammates at the top end, such as Berryman and Johan Half. Oh, this is going to be exciting, John.
That's going to be absolutely huge. The first and third on the grid there with Tamas Shimon separating them. We've then got the DJing duo of James J and James T in fourth and fifth. They'll be fine for the race, guys. Don't worry. Leitner, Penn, Chadwick, Shadbolt, and Cedric Bill, a very well-known regular here at the G Challenge, will be rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, on to the next set of drivers here then. We've indeed got Philip Schiff, we've got Simone Pisoni, we've got Brian Pigmans, and then we've got Julian Bachmann.
Oh, that mistake at the final corner, unfortunately, was, I think, Julian Bachmann's last hot lap, which has resulted in the aborted lap back into the pits. But his race pace might be significantly faster than his position on the grid suggests, so definitely keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, 100%. Again, anyone can win this. You expect there to be, I don't know, some incidents, I would say, as well. That this is not going to be as plain sailing here. Everyone at the front is going to be hoping there's no incidents. Everyone at the back is going to be hoping there's loads of them. The fact that the two teammates have been split here by Simon, I think that's a huge, huge factor into this race. Watch out for that green car on the left-hand side of your screens. That is the joker of the pack right now. Johan Half and Berryman, they'll want to be P1 and P2, work together and drive away. But yeah, the Hungarian, like I say, it's always a Hungarian in sim racing. It is a fact. There's always a Hungarian. We've got one right now splitting the top two in terms of, I don't know, accomplishments within this car.
I mean, at the moment, it's looking like it could be absolutely delightful. Green flag racing, as you always say, Luke, going into the center S's for the first time. I cannot wait. Are we going to see any bumping on lap number one? Oh, Christ, as soon as I said it, that looks horrific for at least 4 cars.
Yeah, I think Tamas Simon's been squeezed there by Johan Half. Johan Half is, I think, in P2 now with Peter Berryman. So again, it remains to be seen exactly what's happened there. But it looked like Tamas Simon and Johan Half, they came through turn one side by side. Half maybe slightly ahead. But again, we would need to see that confirmed here. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Simon is there's no green car there in the top. Well, there's one in the top 6, but that's Armstrong. So right now, then, it is Tamas Simon who is indeed off the pace, out of this race as well. And just almost impossible then for him to catch back up here. Be interested to see exactly what happened there. Peter Berryman and Johan Half, though, this is absolute dreamland for them.
Fantastic stuff for Berryman here in lap number 1. Oh, you gotta feel gutted for Simon here. I was looking forward, right, to having a car split the teammates and having a lovely battle throughout the race. So a little bit disappointed that we've been robbed of that early on, but now it comes down to earning those positions. We've got 15 laps here as Berryman and Half move across the line. Pinska and Leitner are currently in P3 and P4 behind them, with Leon Penn the only remaining car within 2 seconds here on lap number 2.
Yeah, this is interesting. Again, this could be a new full 3 drivers qualifying through to our semi-finals for next weekend. And maybe, well, definitely for one of them, one of the strongest drivers in the world with this car, finally making it through, finally taking a chance to get involved. So it would be great to see Berryman, Johan Half in there. But right now, it's Pinska. And I don't want to do anyone else a disservice in this race, by the way. But Berryman and Half are that fast here that it's kind of really everybody else is going to be battling for P3. Johan Half and Berryman. Berryman, you can see, was already trying to break the slipstream of Half. He's kind of said, do you know what? We're teammates normally, but today it's kind of all for yourself. And wants Half to really fight with the guys behind so he can have an easy race. But right now, Half is just trying to break that slipstream from Pinska and making it so that they have to all battle for P3 on their own.
Tamas Shimon down in P8, just 4/10 behind Shadbolt at the moment. So even if it's only a P3 on offer in terms of automatic qualification here, you know what? There is a chance, but he'd have to produce some absolutely lightning acrobatics on track to make those overtakes. We'll be keeping an eye on that on the left of your screen, of course. In the meantime, Luke, you're exactly right. They're almost a second ahead of everybody else now. This is insane. This is very early doors in this race. And Pinsker, I mean, look, this isn't Formula One, but he's basically out of DRS range already.
Yeah, well, the front two, they're just so used to, they've raced around here as well in the World Championships with this car. They're so used to the pressures as well. They're so used to how long the tires are going to work, how long, you know, what they need to do in terms of keep the tires in a decent temperature range. Like, tires are king on iRacing. Everybody knows that. They just got to lean on all of that experience. Again, yeah, they're around about 0.8 of a second, so nearly half has got Pinsker, and I'm surprised that Berryman isn't staying a little bit closer to the half edge to try and drag him away, and then really just work together and just drive away from the rest of the field. But as it stands, it is indeed Pinsker. You've got Leitner and Penn, and they're a little bit further ahead then of Armstrong. So Armstrong's around about 0.8 of a second back, and there's a big battle in behind here. I think Tamas Simon and Shadbolt may be battling for position in the background. There's almost 3 wide there. But yeah, Leitner, Pinsker, and Penn, they did, well, here it is. So Simon, I think, is just proper getting involved here as early as he possibly can. You see then the red car of Shadbolt trying to come back through. It's almost bump drafting here. You can do that in a stock car because they're like big boxes on wheels. These cars, not so much.
I think that's Armstrong that's just in the lead ahead of Penn. I'd be very happy, though, if it was Shimon, because that would be incredible. It means he gets all the way through that pack. So the blue car you see there is Leon Penn. The red car is definitely Aiden Shadbolt. The question is, which green car is which? I think it's James Armstrong out in front, but frankly, if we saw Tamas Shimon being the car that gets out in front of this after those acrobatics, then that is a Herculean effort, and that means that they can then chase down Norbert Leitner for 4th place. So this is a big battle.
Yeah, whoever is in the lead of this pack here, whether it be Armstrong or whether it indeed be Simon, I think it is Simon, to be fair. I think he's just had a bit of magic over the first sector. They can take solace in the fact that Pinsker and Leitner will have to fight. If Leitner wants to go through, he has to make an overtake. So that indeed could be the opportunity. And it looks like it was, yeah, it is Armstrong. So Armstrong was the lead car. I'm wondering whether look at Simon. Simon here is going to try and get around the outside of the exit of the S. I don't think Simon's car is quick enough. I think he's got damage to that car. Slipstream, he's going to be able to go a little bit faster. But I think as soon as he gets ahead of the cars in front, it's almost game over here. Look at this, though. Side-by-side action, pinching Shadbolt onto the Apex S, then Leon Penn just runs a little bit wide. Good to see that these two drivers are able to go through that corner without going off to runoff. But ultimately, this is fantastic stuff, but it's just slowing them all down. Armstrong here must be loving this. Again, still no contact between the two of them. Still side by side as they go through pretty much the whole lap, and there it is. There is the contact. Simon gets a freebie. Penn then just gets squeezed out wide by Shadbolt. And Simon then just needs to really get the hurry up here. Again, qualified super fast, but outside that top 3 as it stands.
Let's be honest here. Shimon was looking at that fight going, this is a ticking time bomb. I just don't know how many seconds I have to wait until I get that position. It turns out it was closer to 20. That was actually some very impressive side-by-side racing there from Leon Penn and Aiden Shadbolt. But that now means that Tamas Shimon is back up into P7. And in fact, is looking to go around the outside here into T1 even. And Shadbolt gets out of the way as well. Doesn't have the speed to carry it through. So you know what? If he's got damage to the car and Shimon is struggling, he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, this just goes to show exactly how strong the slipstream is here. Oh, Simon there squeezing Shadbolt off there at turn 4. Oh, there's a bit of contact as he comes back on here. And again, this is just hurting them both. So we've seen this scenario before, only a couple of weeks ago in the real world of racing. We're seeing it indeed right before our very own eyes here on iRacing. But Shadbolt retakes the position, and yeah, he got squeezed off circuit in turn 4, and then on the rejoin, it looked like there's a bit of contact between him and Simon.
There is. I mean, like, I'm not the expert here, but I'm gonna stick my neck on the line and say, if you're rejoining the circuit from being that far off it, the last thing you want to be doing is being involved in contact as you rejoin. So I feel like that was a little bit cheeky from Shadbolt. On the plus side, it means we get to see Shimon line him up again.
Yeah, for sure. Here we go then. The long run all the way towards turn number 1. So you go around the final corner, if you can call it that. And as we head then down towards turn number 1, Simon is not going to go late on the brakes here. But I'll tell you what, he will try and set himself up here out of these S's. Again, a lot of curb being taken there by Shadbolt. It's actually a really good line in the end, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to do too much about the advancements here of Simon. And so come up towards the braking zone. Actually, Simon not really close enough. And he does just have a little nibble. And wow, I tell you what, he was any closer there. And Shadbolt was taking his front wing off, that's for sure, and actually maybe causing himself to spin. But Shadbolt aggressively holds on to the position, and fantastic racing from both of them. I'll tell you what, we've got the yellow helmet here, again, very center-esque.
Right. I'm hoping we don't end up seeing this regularly, because if Shadbolt keeps holding on to that position by going that wide off the track, I'm actually wondering if the powers that be might have a word about that. But at the moment,
well,
I'm
they
just
have
enjoying
incident
the battle.
points, John. They have incident points, so they hit, if they hit a maximum of 15 incident points, then that is 17 incident points, then they will receive a stop and go penalty. So
how many have we got for going off track like that?
You get 1x for running off circuit. If there's contact between two drivers, which we've already seen with Shadbolt and indeed Simon, that would have been a 4x as well. So that's at least 5. We've seen him go off the circuit maybe 3 times, so he's in at least 7.
Right.
So yeah, as we move forward in this race, he would receive a penalty. The front two are indeed Berryman and Johan Haaf. This is the most perfect scenario for them right now. When they were talking earlier on, or maybe they're talking now, to be fair, but in their little Discord group or their WhatsApp group, whatever, they would have been like, oh, if we can get out P1 and P2, I'd be ahead of everybody else, not have to worry about them. And that is job done, and they are doing exactly what they need to do right now.
We're busy watching all the action elsewhere. Berryman and Haaf are just going, well, we don't really care about any of that. We're just happy to be off in a world on our own. And you know what? It's unfortunate they're teammates here, because I do want to see a little bit of hammer and tongs from the front two. But you're right. If it's only their first opportunity and their last opportunity to qualify for the semifinals here at the Logitech McLaren G Challenge, you don't want to be taking those risks, especially when you know you just need to finish in the top 3. So the real battle now, I think, is for P3.
Yeah, for sure. The battle for P3 is not really a battle right now either. It's nearly 2 seconds between the two of them. So yeah, it's Pinsker is just looking golden here. His lap times are good. Leitner not really closing up enough, if we're going to be completely honest. So the front two, like you said, they've done the job, they've done the hard work. As we go a bit further back here, Simon is, well, just having a hell of a battle here. Armstrong just ahead of them as well. Shadbolt still right in behind the Hungarian. And then you've got Leon Penn just in behind them as well. But the fact that they've battled so aggressively has just killed any opportunity, really, of them qualifying, unless someone has a bit of a nightmare at the front end.
I mean, I'm looking at the possibility of one of those nightmares happening at the front end, and I can't see one happening right now. It's racing, though. It's always possible. And the moment we say, oh, yeah, that can't possibly happen, is the moment that it probably does. In the meantime, Aiden Shadbolt finally gets passed again by Tamas Simon and is not looking particularly happy about it. Being very aggressive on the brakes, though, and locking up slightly actually gives Simon a little bit of breathing space, and unfortunately, he will not be caught this lap. Tamas might actually use the opportunity to try now and gap a little bit the cars behind so he can focus on catching up Armstrong, who's now 1.8 seconds up the road.
Yeah, for sure. Again, it's all about kind of got to manage your race, but sometimes you get stuck in this situation that we've got right now where you're with a train of cars, you're not really making any sort of inroads on the group in front because you're working so hard battling with each other. But if you can't take the racer out of a race driver. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
If you see a car in front of you, you want to overtake it. It's as simple as that. But ultimately, in such a short format, you just lose too much time by doing it. It looks like, by the way, Shadbolt off circuit once again. Looks like his tyres may be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the line he's taking every single lap at the moment, isn't it? We're now on board with James Armstrong looking back, as he should be, at Tamas Simon, who is like a rocket, already halving the distance between Shadbolt and him. So he's still got some serious pace in that car, despite being involved very early doors in an incident, which is fantastic. The problem is overtaking Armstrong, even if he does it this lap and makes it super clean, still puts him 2 positions away from automatic qualification to the semifinals next week. He then needs to find a way past Norbert Leitner and James Pinsker. And as we know, Pinsker is so far up the road right now that, yes, I'd love to see it teed up, but it's looking close to impossible.
Yeah, definitely. You see here that Simon's trying to square Armstrong up here. Armstrong definitely not got the pace to keep Simon at bay. Simon, though, a little bit too close on the exit of the S's here. Armstrong moves to the defensive line as soon as possible. And now you see there's just going to be squeezing Simon out wide here. And you can see he turns in very, very early to Armstrong. Simon does get the job done. Shadbolt is, well, by the end of this race, is going to be running out of incident points. We might not even see him cross the line. But just to talk about the future of this competition, Berryman and Johan Haaf, they automatically, for me, become one of the favourites to win this championship. It's as simple as that. You know, you've got to take into account Martin van Loozenhoort as well. And for me, Brandon Hawkin. Like, those are the 4 to beat right now.
Oh, Brandon's been imperious, hasn't he, all challenge long. I mean, it feels like everything he shows up to, he wins. Absolutely incredible. But yeah, Berryman and Haaf right now are showing us a masterclass.
Oh, big spin.
Oh, God!
Oh, there's the tyres. Oh, dear. Well, I said Chad Bolt might not finish and cross the line because of
not like
some incident points, but he's not going to finish because of some contact there. And he just gets crossed up. Armstrong's just turned in with a bit too much power. The rear of the car's gone, nope, I'm not going like that. The front wheels are like, yeah, I'm up for that, that's fine. But the rear of the car's like, nope, not today. And ultimately, it gets crossed up, just keeps the power pinned. And by the time he releases the accelerator, it's already too late, the car's gone. Unfortunately, Shadbolt was a passenger there as well. And, you know, these cars are very tough to drive on lap 1, lap 2, when the tyres are in pristine condition, let's say. But lap 12, lap 13, oh boy, they are just such a challenge. So yeah, like you said earlier, you know, what we need is, if you want someone from outside the top 3 to qualify, is a mistake. And with the nature of the tyres in this car, that is a distinct possibility, as we've just seen.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a Quantum Pay replay of that crash. We were talking about how Shadbolt was running out of incident points. What we didn't realize is that it was an incident that ends up ruining his race. Let's take a look at what happened there. Oh, hang on. I think we've got a replay. There we go.
Here we go then. So here is your replay. And yeah, so we're coming up towards to set yourself up. Oh, and he just dropped it on the curb on the outside. So he's just tried turning the car too early, if that makes sense. He just tried to turn it a little bit too early. The angle was a bit too acute. And unfortunately, the car was like, yep, not today. And the car spins around, and poor Shadbolt was involved in that as well. So if we look here on board with the front 2, they have not looked in jeopardy at all here. Wonder if they might just have a little bit of fun. Might have a little bit of fun on the last lap, but yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Peter Berryman is definitely not the mayor of Funtown, so he'll probably just try and get this done as soon as possible.
Oh, that's a pity. I'd love to see them fight it from the back of the grid. We need we need some reverse grids here to make this particularly interesting.
Well, the semi-finals. Semi-finals to final is going to be like a reverse grid every single race, remember? Because every single drive is at a top level. So, yeah, we're going to basically, the grid, you know, we see maybe a couple of seconds between first and last in terms of qualifying, but when it comes to next week in the semi-finals and then moving further on into the finals, like the times are going to be half a second, maybe a little bit more than that. It's going to be super, super tight. So, yeah, take your breaks now while it's nice and placid here and it's almost guaranteed who's qualifying. Next week, me and you are going to be in a corner rocking back and forth after the weekend, I think. Just an absolute mess. No voices. Like, if anybody wants us to sing Christmas carols this Christmas, don't bank on me and John.
No, I charge extra for that under normal circumstances, and that's when I can do it. Absolutely not.
You were my Christmas present last year. My partner spent a fortune. John just turned up at my door in a bow tie only, singing Christmas carols.
Do you know how long I was trapped in that cake before I was allowed to pop out? I mean, it was a difficult 4 hours. That's all I'm saying.
I could tell it was a long time, John, when you stood in front of me. But anyway, back onto the racing.
Oh, dearie me. There's absolutely no give and take between these. You can see how they're almost flicking the car in to get the maximum possible radius into the final corner. That does get you more speed, but you do have to execute that with absolute extreme precision. And a tiniest bit wrong there, you set one wheel wrong, and what happens to you is similar to what happened to James Armstrong earlier on in the race, unfortunately, when he sent himself down the pecking order along with a couple of other cars as well. Tamas Shimon up to P5 now, an extremely credible performance from him here. And I get the feeling this might be a little bit of showboating from the front too, rather than a serious attempt at an overtake. Berryman and Haaf know they're on the final lap with a big gap. They are going to be going through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, proper showboat in there on the back straight. It'd be horrendous now to see one of them end up in a wall because of that, wouldn't it?
Oh, no.
By the looks of things, I don't think they're going to battle too hard here. Again, in formation, like they're the red arrows down, indeed, towards turn number 4 and 5. But yeah, as we get a beautiful blimp cam, good old blimpy boy, we've got 2 corners remaining here at Interlagos, and Berryman has looked super, super quick. But I tell you what, Johan Half had to do a bit of work to catch up to be as close as he is to Berryman. So when it comes to the semi-finals and the final, they're going to be racing, that is for sure. Around the final curve, we will come using the pit lane here. Half, is he going to try and drag into the line? Not quite going to work out. But Berryman, Half, teammates are going to qualify for our semi-finals. What about Pinsker? I think Pinsker is going to be the third driver to go through as well. But really is about these two. And for me, instantly, they become, you know, two of the 5 favourites to take the whole title. Not just the regional semis, the whole title.
They're allowed to do that now, guys. It's sim racing. We're all good. Peter Berryman then will take the checkered flag. Johan Hart in second place and James Pinsker in third. An absolutely delightful race. I have to say, though, I do feel like to an extent, Tamas Shimon did steal the show there, and for good reason, too.
Yeah, again, we didn't see exactly what happened at the start there. He for sure had the pace to be in the top 3. He was, you know, a couple of hundredths off of Berryman in terms of qualifying pace. There was something that happened into turn 2, which
yeah.
he was on a curb. So, yeah, he did a very good job indeed in coming back, but he had 4 drivers, like the top 10, top 12 in this race today are all very similarly paced. So once you get caught in a group of cars that are basically a slipstream train, it becomes very, very difficult to make any moves. So very unfortunate for Simon. But there's going to be 2 or 3 drivers who are not going to care one iota. Half, Berryman, and indeed Pinsker. They do not care at all. They will book their tickets to our semi-finals. And well, it's a very quick turnaround for them. We'll see you then next week.
We will indeed. Very brutal as well. If you're one of those drivers who was waiting on points, it might be good to hear that a lot of the drivers who were faster are drivers that hadn't qualified yet, because it means that someone finishing in 4th or 5th might not have taken your spot from you. So there's a little bit of give and take here this week as well, where the drivers who have a lot of points who maybe didn't qualify for this final are constantly keeping an eye out on that point count, going, where does someone have to place to knock me off the list? And because with so many new drivers in the top 6, top 10, there's a chance that a lot of them haven't knocked someone out.
Yeah, well, I think Van Loosenhoorn's missed his trick here. I think he should have been signed up and qualified for this month's finals, because he could have stopped one of those from potentially qualifying because he's that quick. So is that gonna come back to bite him? I don't know. We'll see. Here's the...
Oh,
yeah, it's a bit of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other there. It didn't look like Half was as far over to the right as he possibly could be, but Tamas Simon there was probably turning in a little bit too early. I think it was aggressive side-by-side action and nothing really too much to write home about. This is the battle of the race for sure. Penn and Chabot, those two absolutely having a worldie of a race. Armstrong had just disappeared the road by then. And this was for pretty much a whole lap. Unfortunately, until they had a little bit of contact at the top of the hill. Well, it wasn't even contact. It was just a squeeze there. And that really is Chabot just running out of grip in terms of his tyres. It was quite late on in the race as well. And then we see... Well, we see Chabot with one of his excursions of the track limits here. And well, it would appear there that Simon has just driven through the front wing. Here is Armstrong and Simon. Simon round the outside. Armstrong's going to be like, oh, I'm going to try and outbrake you. It's never going to work, unfortunately. Simon uses all of that curb on the exit. Chabot taking the Chabot line in the background as well. But yeah, as you said, Simon was just, he stole the show effectively. Anyone outside that top 3.
Absolutely delightful racing in the midfield here, and then at the end of the race, of course, absolutely delightful stuff. Very, very happy with that result, I'm sure. I cannot wait to see the teammates in next week's semi-final. It's going to be fantastic. They drove a flawless race here at Interlagos, and if anything, this race has shown us in the G Challenge what an absolutely exciting race and action-packed race this can serve up. I'm really looking forward to see how things go there. In the meantime, it's not just the drivers themselves who can win. You can go ahead and win from home. Use !giveaway in Twitch chat and visit the link for a chance to win Logitech G gear. So make sure to go ahead and grab that. A massive thank you as well to Splunk, Logitech G, McLaren, and Quantum Pay for helping us put on this broadcast. That was your open wheel race, our second of 3 in the first half of tonight's broadcast here in the EMEA region. When we come back, we're going to Silverstone in the McLaren 720S GT3 sports cars for the final EMEA race before the semi-finals. Don't miss it.
And we got a reflective bum here. Did you want me to redo that one? I don't know if it messed the light enough. Off you go. Since round 4 of the G Challenge, I competed in the UK wildcard, which I actually managed to win. So I was really, really pleased with that. And hopefully if I finish in the top 3, that'll put me then to the grand finals of the whole competition. So as I said last time, one of my goals is to put a qualifying lap in that's very similar to my practice times. I had pressure behind all race, so it was not easy at all. It's never nice having someone on your tail the whole time and you're just not able to attack the guy in front. But yeah, luckily nothing went wrong and I come home in 5th, so I was really happy with that. I felt like I had really good pace, but obviously you've always got it in your mind that the guy behind may go for an overtake, so you got to be mindful of that. I'm really excited to go into the 5th round of the G Challenge because it's at Silverstone. It's one of my favorite tracks of the time. I'll be hoping for a podium, obviously, but again, I'll be really happy with the top 5 like I did last round. When I start to work on a setup for any car or track, I usually do maybe 10 laps with the aggressive preset. So I get like a base time. So I get my base time and then I try and improve it from there. Main things I'm looking for is I need that stability and I need to be able to get good exits from corners. So that's sort of my focus. After I got the setup exactly how I want it, I'll then do some qualifying runs to check the tyre pressures are all good. And then I'll go on to do some race runs and make sure the car feels good, just so I know how the car reacts at all stages in the race. For competitions where there's more than one race, I usually find myself practicing a lot more towards the end of the competition, the business end, should we call it, mainly because the motivation's a lot higher. That's all you've been practicing for to get to the final bit and do yourself proud. For me, the worst thing is going into a race and knowing that you're underprepared. To get that preparation, the practice time in, get the confidence, that's the main thing, but then we're all good.
Welcome back to the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. We're moments away from getting into Silverstone. I'm John Sargent. With me is Luke Crane, and that was Chris McDade for this edition of Behind the Wheel. Chris McDade has become a bit of a regular here at the Logitech G Challenge. He's shown massive improvement month on month. Last month, he managed to finish in 5th, but he has yet to score that elusive podium. We're going to be following him very closely indeed to see if he can make it into the top 3 in this week's race.
He's also a fellow Daytona 24-hour winner. Not that I wanted to mention that again today, but yeah.
Oh, really? Is he? Nice.
Oh, yeah. He's part of Team Woo! Woo! Yeah, so yeah, an incredible driver.
Gonna be hyped now.
Yeah, it looks like we've only got 12 in the race today, so this is yeah, well, big opportunity to get into that top 3 today. We're saying it would be vital for the drivers who have already qualified to maybe try and block someone out like James Baldwin.
Yep.
But ultimately, they are not. So this is absolutely wide open for me. I think your favourites now become James Baldwin, of course. It's gone for the #1 car. What an obnoxious man. He's a beautiful human. I love him. We've got Marco Yonkers, who's kind of new onto the scene in terms of pace over the last sort of 12 months. He really has improved. I would say McDade, of course, is going to be up there. Niels van der Koekout is again another driver I was looking at before. Outside of those top 4, I'm not sure. Maybe Blotto could be up there and in amongst it. But I think that will be what we're looking at as our top 4.
This is going to be rather open indeed. Remember, we've also got a number of drivers who, you know, they're not racing in rounds 1 through 4. They have every incentive to take a risk, absolutely try and punch their ticket, and maybe do a one-off YOLO lap to get onto the 1st or 2nd row of the grid. And you never know what might happen here. That's what I love about the G Challenge. At the end of the day, we have thousands, tens of thousands of people throughout the course of nearly half a year trying to qualify to make their way to the semi-finals, and this is literally the last opportunity for the drivers to do so. About 7 minutes separates us from knowing how these drivers are going to line up, and 1/4 of this grid are going to go through to the semi-finals. This is a big opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Also, there's been an update to ACC. So 1.8 was out 10 days ago, and they were only given 3 days notice that there was going to be an update. So they've had 10 days to indeed plan for this, indeed find setups, because all of the setups that they had previously would not work anymore. So they have to go out there and find a new setup. The differences really are the tyres. So in terms of the tires, it's so much easier to lock up on entry into a corner. It's so much easier to light the rears up coming out of a corner as well. But also, apparently you can lean on the tires and slide the car a little bit more. So you can be a little bit more aggressive mid-corner. But if you make a mistake, if you indeed spin the car, you will really be hurting for a good couple of laps. So it's hard to get those tires back into a decent range, as we like to say. So yeah, as much as I said that there's a clear, strong 4 drivers here, it's going to be about who's adapted over the last 10 days, who maybe found something in terms of the game physics that someone else maybe didn't.
It's going to be a weird one, right? Whenever you're racing in any game, let alone a sim, when you have something like an update or a patch come through, you don't always 100% know exactly how it's going to affect your game. And part of being at the tip-top end is that it will affect some drivers more than others. And how quickly you're able to adapt. That is so critical in all esports, not just sim racing. But here, especially when the difference of half a tenth could be the difference of the front row or row 4, I mean, it is absolutely critical. So I suspect a lot of these drivers will have used the last 10 days to really hone in on what's changed and try and set as consistent, not necessarily fastest, but as consistent a race pace as possible for them to maximize their chances of getting a podium here.
Yeah, for sure. The times are a little bit slower than what we would expect. I'm just going to go off of the data from my racing community. The lap record is a 56.073. This was pre-patch from last week. You can see that James Baldwin, who you would expect to be there or there around that sort of time, is a 56.9, maybe a high 55 you would have expected before the patch last time out. So yeah, I'm expecting to see him maybe find half a second. But yeah, it's just a touch slower than it was previously.
They still have time to improve, though. Just under 5 minutes to go now. And we have James Baldwin as the only driver in the 156s. But as you mentioned, Luke, we've got plenty of room to go before we start hitting lap record territory. That said, I'm guessing they're driving on a little bit of a cooler track at night, or at the very least around sunset and dusk. Is this likely to have any sort of effect on their lap times?
Yeah, it'll make it quicker, for sure. So the lap record that I was just going on was done at sort of midday time. So not a terrible time of day to be doing your lap times, but the track's baked. So your tires are effectively like bubble gum. They're just like not that grippy, and they don't last very long. But yeah, so with it being a cooler temperature, it's just a bit more consistent around the circuit. So yeah, you will see that the times will be a little bit faster. But the fact again, it's around about a second off of what I would be expecting. I'm expecting to see the times be a little bit faster than they are. I'm sure that Baldwin isn't going to let us down. I'm sure we're going to see a mid 56.
I'm looking forward to that. The question for me is how many different drivers will give Baldwin a run for his money? I don't want to see a one-horse race gallop off into the distance. I mean, I'd love to see a great performance just as much as the next guy. Don't get me wrong. But what I want to see are 3 great performances within half a second of each other on track. That is very much up my street.
Yeah, so 1.7, the update that came out a year ago now, last November, there was a huge implementation towards the tyre, getting heat into the tyres, and the full lap formation lap being absolutely vital. You could gain yourself a second to 2 seconds on the first couple of laps of a race. We only use a short formation lap. So yeah, they cannot get the heat into the tyres. So the first lap is going to be tiptoeing around. Even someone like Baldwin, who's an absolute magician, he'll be tiptoeing around. And if there's people watching at home going, why is James Baldwin suddenly like the be all and end all? He's pretty much won every competition there is. And also he literally drove this car that he's in right now in real life for Jenson Button Team Rocket in the British GT Championship. So he legitimately, you could, if you just like poke your head into this car, you can smell James Baldwin.
I think that means that he's got too long a stint in the 24-hour races, mate. But maybe that's a different story for another time. Chris McDade, we were following him earlier on. He's currently up into provisional P3, and he's only 0.06 of a second down behind Statsenko at the moment, with 2 minutes left to go in the qualifiers. So all within a couple of tenths of each other, and in fact, second through fifth within 2/10 of each other at the moment, so that's pretty strong. A little bit of a gap though to the cars behind. After the 157.392 set by Victor Taras at the moment, we then have a whole bunch of drivers in the 0.6, 0.7, 0.8s. In fact, a solid group of 5 of them here. So really, we want to see them closing that gap to make the midfield more interesting. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a front group of 5 or 6 cars and then a second group that falls further behind.
Yeah, well, we're about to see McDade come up towards the end of this lap. He's going to have one more flying attempt, so it might be a good idea to have a little onboard with him once he crosses the line. So we can have a look at exactly what circuit we are going to be contending with, and I can talk through maybe some of the better opportunities for drivers to indeed make some overtakes. We're heading then through the final couple of corners. You can see he's weaving left and right, trying to get some warmth into the tyres. Look how wide of an entry he's trying to take in towards a final complex of corners. That's to try and maximise his speed. Here we go then, over the curb, final attempt for Chris McDade. And can he find those extra 0.3 of a second to potentially go up into the front row of the grid? A 56.7 now for James Baldwin. Here we go then, through turn number 1 for Chris McDade, through Cops Corner. And again, just using all of the curb on the outside the best you possibly can. And now you're going to set yourself up for Maggots and Beckett's here. You can lose so much time through here. It's not an overtaking complex of corners, but if you make a mistake through this part and someone behind you gets an absolute nailed version, it goes onto a big, long straight, which indeed heads up towards Stowe Corner. Look how wide it is. And again, we should get a panned view here of him coming up towards the right-hand corner. This is the best opportunity to make an overtake around the circuit. Look how wide it is on entry. But also you can use a lot of runoff on the exits. If you send one up the inside, you're going to slow another car down by making that move, but ultimately that is the best opportunity to do so. So Maggots and Beckett's are a key part of the circuit. Get that exit onto to the Stowe straight, and then we can indeed potentially make a move. Sorry, onto the Hanger straight, not Stowe straight, Stowe Corner. Here we go then across the old start-finish line. This is actually the Formula 1 start-finish line as we come then through the right-hander, and again you transition to a left-hander very, very quickly indeed. So it's all about making sure that your car is indeed the weight has been transitioned perfectly, otherwise the rear can just step out. Again, try and avoid the sausage curb on the inside. And as we come then through the left-hander onto the Wellington straight, we will come. Chris McDade looking very quickly indeed.
Let's see if he can improve. He's currently on a 1:57.265. We don't see that time get any faster. We have got a second driver in the 156, is Mikhail Statsenko, who was already in P2. Improves to within a 10th of James Baldwin. Hello, game on. 1:56.820. That's exciting.
That's an incredible time here. McDade, though, is his final attempt here. Has he found a little bit of magic as well? Again, he's going to have to improve hugely. Blotto now P3. Across the line we will go then for McDade. Does he find that extra time? Doesn't look like he has done. No, he does not. James Baldwin has done a 56.7. We're expecting him to be up there, but the big surprise is that Statsenko is on the front row, and it is not by a lot at all. It's less than a 1/10 of a second. Very interesting indeed.
P3, provisionally Matteo Blotto came in with a 1:57.125. At the tail end of that, absolutely delightful stuff. And Chris McDade provisionally P4 with a 1:57.265. Victor Taras, who we saw go over the line just at the end there, was on a 1:57.357. And that's where the gap starts to come out. Dragos Simeon is 1:57.577, I think, so just over 2/10 slower. And then Van der Koekelt is the first of the cars that are in the 0.7s. He actually leads a string of 5 cars that are between 1:57.7 and 1:58 flat. So it does look like provisionally there's likely to be a front group and a rear group of cars, but anything can happen come the race.
Yeah, you say that, but in a race, you can kind of make up for that because of slipstreaming of the car in front. So you can gain a couple of tenths across a lap time, maybe over the course of a whole lap here at Silverstone, half a second. So expect the group to stay together. Expect there to be some overtaking opportunities. And for drivers that we've not seen before, expect there to be some chances taken.
So here are your track conditions for Silverstone. A little bit different this time around. It's a cool 20-degree track temperature as well as 20-degree ambient temperature as well. Ha! You won't get England looking that dark and 20-degree ambient temperature on my life. I call that one out. Absolutely no wind and nice and cloudy conditions. So we're all set for a rather exciting nighttime race around Silverstone.
Absolutely. It's exciting times. This is a home race for Baldwin. It's a home race for McDade. And there's one driver that doesn't care about any of that sentiment, and that is indeed Statsenko. And, well, he'll want to have one stat next to his name, and that is being in the top 3, qualified through to, indeed, the next week's semi-finals, and the job is a good one.
Waiting now for all of the drivers to get lined up on the grid. They've got a little bit of time to maybe take a quick comfort break, but really just get themselves ready and in the mindset for this race. Lights coming on the cars now. I don't advise going around Silverstone blindfold. Here is what your grid is going to look like. James Baldwin is on pole position alongside Mikhail Statsenko. We've then got Blotto and McDade on row 2. Taras and Simeon will be row 3. Van der Kukel, Leo Rice, Andre Miclea, and Sebastian Apostol will make up your top 10.
The final 2 drivers then are Christian Berendea and indeed Marco Yonkers didn't get a lap time in. Statsenko here has got to be clever and try and force a mistake here from Baldwin off the start line. Try and potentially be right at the edge of his imaginary box. And here we go then. We are off. We are green light racing Baldwin and straight across the bonnet of Statsenko as we come through turn number 1. And, well, straight up towards Maggots and Beckett's here. No time for these drivers to breathe here. Simon then going defensively in P5, trying to hold on to P5. Baldwin there with a very nice entry. Runs a little bit wide, though. Maybe an opportunity here for Statsenko, but no, he's nailed it, hasn't he? Again, it's vital that you're on the power nice and early up towards Stowe Corner. Statsenko is very close indeed. Is there the opportunity for an overtake here? He is closing up. Is there going to be a dive here? Doesn't have to, just needs that top 3, of course. But ultimately, yeah, he decides not to. Baldwin there maybe going in ever so slightly defensive. Didn't attack that corner as best he possibly can, but he has indeed, for the first half of that, survived. And that's all that he needs to do. Blotto, who's just ahead of McDade, expect that to go down to the wire. Taras and Simeon, I think, have just gone through side, but yeah, they are. So the next group of cars, Taras and Simeon, are very close indeed. The front 4 have kind of got away here, and I think you'll find that Taras has just held on. And well, off the circuit we go then for Simeon. We've got Race and Van der Kukel. So you're right, John. It has become 2 groups of cars. I thought that they wouldn't battle as crazily as they have on lap number 1, but ultimately here we are, and I am all for it.
Oh, Apostol having a little bit of a lawn mowing exercise there by the looks of things.
Dive at the inside. Simeon on Race. Oh, it's brilliant. Oh, he's caught him absolutely napping there. Oh, it's spinning there. Blotto's spun there. Race now and Simeon having a hell of a battle there. And Simeon, again, it was very aggressive move up the inside. No contact at all. And fair play to Race. He's actually read that situation perfectly. And he's just thought, you know what? Let's not have any contact here. I'm going to try and get him down the Wellington straight. It's not quite worked out like that. But Race and Simeon then. And now all of a sudden, well, Taras is up ahead of them, isn't he? Yes, Taras is now onto the back of Chris McDade. And you've got to be clever here. You've got to try and work together, but at the very same time, you kind of, you know, need to be ahead here and try and drag him along as we come up towards Cops Corner. It looked like Race was going to make a move on Simeon. Doesn't quite do it. It's only going to cost him time now. What a move from Simeon.
I want to find out what happened to Blotto as well. All sorts of drama at the start of this race. It's hammer and tongs. I feel like they watched the stock car race and wanted to give us a similar level of entertainment, Luke. I am not complaining at all. Processional, this is not. Statsenko still within a second of James Baldwin, keeping him honest at the front of the field. Everybody else behind them, frankly, scrapping hammer and tongs.
Yeah, for sure. The front 2 aren't going to be too worried about anything going on behind them. Taras is kind of just got a nice little gap then to the group behind, and this is for a qualifying position right now. McDade, we think is already going to qualify anyway to the semi-finals. He's golden, but he want to do it via this way, the top 3. Not worry about the points, not worry about any wild cards. He wants to finally get onto that podium spot. And just, yeah, I'm not saying that if he didn't, he wouldn't feel like he belongs in a final. But the fact that he's done it multiple ways, that can only be good for your psyche, ultimately. Taras, though, Taras is going to definitely give it all his all, for sure.
He certainly is. McDade, I think he's currently racing in the wildcards as well for the UK, so trying to get as many opportunities to make his way to the semi-finals as possible. Elsewhere, though, I'm not 100% certain what's going on behind, but I'm trying to work out how far back Taras and Simeon are and whether they're closing. At the moment, I have to say Taras has done an absolutely superb job in this race. Fingers crossed we see him close up a little bit. I want to see this action. 7/10 now.
Yeah, 100%. And as we head and towards, what, 16 minutes on the countdown clock there. You kind of want to sit behind a driver and soak it in and ultimately just sort of get away from the group behind you effectively. But with only being 16 minutes left on the clock, you also have to think about making an overtake when you're in P4, because Taras, you know, it has to go through the top 3. It's as simple as that. McDade, by the way, he said in the previous race he couldn't get away from a driver behind, so he couldn't attack the course as best he possibly can. It looks like Taras is caught up, and then McDade's actually found a second wind. He's been able to actually drive away here. That's a mistake there from Taras, runs a little bit wide. McDade, though, now is going to be able to put it quality lap after quality lap, maybe try and chase down the front two. But right now he's got breathing room in front of him, breathing room behind. Chris McDade's in a perfect position. The front 3 are in a perfect position.
I'm looking for a potential opportunity here, but realistically, the front 3 are also the only 3 drivers who are currently in the 57s as far as race pace is concerned. This is a fantastic cockpit view, especially with the contrast of it being at night as well. I absolutely love that view of the drivers. Baldwin and Statsenko, though, half a second a lap faster than everybody else now. It feels like they were reasonably close before, maybe a second or two adrift, but now they've kicked things up into another gear. They want to say, we don't care who's in third, we just want to make sure they never catch up.
Yeah, 100%. They've got to work together here. Statsenko has not got a better driver. They could not wish for a better driver to be in front of him to drag him along at this stage. Baldwin will just do what Baldwin does. He'll just, yeah, he'll win. That's as simple as that. He is a natural born winner. It's a fact. The group behind, they're, you know, pressurizing each other. They know that they have the luxury of working together. They can do that, stay in a P1 and P2. They know that McDade and Taras do not have that luxury. They can't work together because there's only one qualifying position, that would be being P3, so they will have to battle at some point. So that's another little bit of insurance then for the front 2. But I think you'll find that there might be Van der Kukel, I think Race, and I think Simeon may start to catch up to McDade and Taras. The longer this race goes on, there will be some battling happening, so that P3 is up for grabs for sure.
And don't forget some of those drivers we just mentioned, Van der Kukel especially. They're names that we have seen throughout the G Challenge, and the points that they accrue here are going to potentially help them get into the semi-finals as well. Is it as flashy as finishing on the podium? Of course not. But if you're not in the top 3 right now, knowing that every point helps is still useful. It's still comforting. If anything, it allows you to focus on setting the best lap time because you're not busy sweating bullets calculating if you'll be in or not.
But qualifying via that method and being P1, P2, or P3 has no difference on where you qualify in the semi-finals. It starts again.
Exactly.
Everybody's on 0, so you have a qualifying session, and you know that's when you can. Maybe it's the right time to hit your form right now. Right time to start moving to up the grid order and not peak too early. So just getting there, it takes a form of pressure off your shoulders. And when people feel a little bit less pressure, they loosen up. They loosen up in the shoulders. They loosen up in the legs. And then you really do see the full potential. And you're going to see a few drivers as well next week where they maybe feel like they're not in the top 20 in terms of pace, but they're going to be so relaxed that they'll shock themselves and they'll produce some lap times that they would not be expecting. They'll find that little bit extra because they are so relaxed, and they kind of, you sometimes see the best performances when it's kind of like, oh, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm just relaxed and I'm here, I've got this far. I didn't think I was going to do this, but now everything else is a bonus. And yeah, you really will see people outperform where they would expect to be.
I completely agree. Like, I think some of the best driving I ever do is when I'm relaxed. Unfortunately, that's probably good enough to make P300 as opposed to P30 on a grid like this. But hey, you know, you have to start somewhere. And at the end of the day, if you're constantly tense and worried about exactly what's going to come around the next corner, you might be faster in the short term, but you also become more prone to mistakes. When you're that tense and you're constantly overthinking everything, that's when the car snaps out of control. That's when you misjudge a braking point. That's when you don't realize that someone's already partially alongside you. Those kind of mistakes do happen.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience, when you're in a winning position or a good position, let's say, your legs start to feel a bit heavier. You feel like you're braking a bit more than you would normally, so you feel like you're going to lock the car up. So then you brake a little bit less, then you miss your braking point because you're braking a little bit less than what you think you are. You think your legs are shaking, they're not. Your arms feel like they're fatigued, so you're turning with more aggression, so you're not just doing smooth inputs, you're more jagged. That can make mistakes as well. You just become slower. You then, when you get to sort of the final couple of laps of a race, you're then just looking in your rearview mirror thinking, oh my God, my pace, they're catching up at this rate. I can't go any faster here. I'm in trouble. And your mind plays tricks on you. Like, as much as it's all about, you know, mainly about talent and how fast you are, the psychological part of sim racing, or the part of just esports in general, is absolutely massive. So having to deal with those demons as well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well it goes next week. Again, to get to top 3 in some of these months, I'm not going to discredit every race, but some of the races have been a little bit easier than others, let's say. Next week, there's no freebies. You know, it is going to be pressure, pressure, pressure. And who deals with the pressure the best will be ultimately the driver that gets to the sharp end of the grid.
Look, some of these races have been easier than others, and it's absolutely the fault of the quick drivers who decided not to show up for any reason to those easier races. At the end of the day, you have to be in it to win it, and this format also rewards, through the point system, the drivers that keep trying and keep placing in the top 30. Don't forget, every single week, even in these easy races, all of the drivers that you're watching on screen beat out hundreds of other drivers who didn't even make it to the race stage. So that's the reason why all of these points count, is because all of the invisible work in the weeks and, dare I say, months coming into each one of these race weekends, it's massively important. And even for a driver that finishes outside the top 3 here, it's important that they walk away with something, because it is a hell of a lot of work just to get to this stage of the competition.
Yeah, 100%. No one can ever take it away from them as well. I always say, if you make it to a stream part of a competition such as this, like, yeah, no one can ever take that away from you, that experience. And there'll be drivers that I've said that about when we were on Project Cars last year, the year before that. And ultimately now we're seeing them sort of at the sharp end of the grid. Maybe we saw them not quite make it to the global finals in previous years, or to the semi-finals in previous years, but now we're going to start to see them into the finals. So there's going to be drivers out there next week or today that maybe don't quite make it, but they've got this experience to lean on. It's only going to improve them. It's only going to help them progress in their esports journey. So for some drivers, this is just the beginning. So absolutely, you should also, all of you should bookmark LogitechGchallenge.com for sure, because, you know, what's happening next year? Maybe you can come and get involved next year. Who knows?
That would be wonderful. I mean, we keep seeing more and more drivers take up basically the world's largest sim racing competition every single year. The Logitech G Challenge always throws up fantastic racing, and the most important part of it is it's not some sort of elite invite-only event. It's literally open to all. New stars are born in the G Challenge, and we look forward to potentially crowning one of them indeed come the grand finals. There's still a ways to go before that, and a lot of people are certainly making their mark now to say we'd like to be in with a shot.
100%. The G Challenge doesn't care about your reputation. All it cares about is performing on the day. So yeah, we will be crowning some new champions, that's for sure. Someone who isn't new to being at the front of the race, though, is James Baldwin. But I tell you what, he cannot shake Statsenko off at all here. Half a second between the two, and actually Statsenko has the fastest lap of the race just by about a tenth of a second. That would have been slipstream aided as well. And you know, if you can stick underneath the rear wing of someone who's a little bit faster than you around a circuit such as Silverstone, you can indeed keep up with their pace. It does gain you a couple of tenths. As you can see there, Statsenko just lost a couple of tenths through Maggots and Beckett's, as you would expect with a jet-washed air, but he should catch back up towards Stowe. Baldwin just doing what he needs to do here, and I think even if Statsenko does decide to attack him, he's not going to be too worried about it. He'll probably let him just go. Like, you crack on, I'm going to just get P2, move on. Again, very similarly to what we've seen already in terms of the open wheel. James Baldwin goes out and wins this race. He, for me, automatically becomes one of the sort of top 5 favourites to not only win the region, but the whole competition.
Interesting fight happening on track at the moment. Niels van der Koekel has been within 0.3 of a second of Leo Rice. That's the battle between 6th and 7th place for the good part of a full lap now. So I'm wondering if van der Koekel is looking for an opportunity to judge a pass. We can see them on screen now. Look at how close he's been following. I've been checking out the times and the splits between these two cars. Van der Koekel is living in the rear wing of Leo Rice right now, and Rice must be sweating bullets. Van der Koekel keeps trying to get a word in edgeways, and my god, that was close to contact.
Yeah, Koekel there perfectly on the brakes, and Rice as well was perfectly able to squeeze Van der Koekel, because if he left the door open any wider, Koekel makes that move no problem whatsoever. We still see then down the Wellington straight, Koekel still very, very close indeed. Not quite close enough to make a dive, I wouldn't imagine. If he does, they would both end up into the gravel, that's for sure. Bit of a mistake there by Rice, but again, that's more to do with opening up the corner, so not necessarily a mistake. There's multiple different lines around such a technical circuit such as this. But I'll tell you what, yeah, it does. It definitely was a mistake then, because he's been closed up by Van der Kukel. As we come then around this right-hander, Van der Kukel is as close as he has been all race long. Again, just trying to sort of get into the right side mirror there of Rice, just to play with him a little bit. But as we come up towards Magnus and Beckett's here, you're going to see Van der Kukel potentially just let that gap go out a little bit more, let it increase as they come through here. There you go. So the gap's increasing, and then he'll be looking for an incredible exit up towards Stowe. So you should see him close back up here. And has he worked this out perfectly? So they're going to come through the right-hand kink or the left-hand kink.
It's not
right
bad
for us. No, it's a really good exit, but I don't think it's quite good enough. He's got 5 minutes 30 seconds here to indeed try and do that again, but it was perfect, really. Ultimately, just didn't get on the power early enough onto the hangar straight. So I'll tell you what, though, he's close here. This will be a dive if he doesn't defend the inside line. Van der Kukel then round the outside. You can see that Rice is going to squeeze Van der Kukel there on the exit, and perfectly judged there by Race. Never really forcing Van der Kukel onto a grass or anything there. Had the advantage, and indeed Julie kept hold of it. And actually, we've done a full lap with these now. It looks like the gaps are just, I'd say it's a little bit bigger, but ultimately half a tenth or, you know, a couple of hundredths between these two is always going to be welcomed by Race as it stands. But yeah, Race still in that P6. Neither of them are near the top three, unfortunately for them. Baldwin, Statsenko, and Chris McDade, they're looking very good. Actually, Taras is very close to McDade again, so McDade has not been able to drive away today. Raystoke doing exactly what he needs to do. 4/10 of a second it is between the two of them. And again, this is another opportunity here, John. It's to whether he can set up this complex of corners. Van der Kukel perfectly enough to maybe make a move. He closes up nice. This is where Race made a bit of a mistake. He's done it again here. So you can see the Van der Kukel's just opened up this right-hander a little bit better than in Race. And that means he will be on the power a little bit earlier. He's a lot closer this time round. But Race then, with that mistake, is able to indeed be on the power a little bit earlier through the final part of that complex of corners. So well, here we go. There's a big mistake there. Taras and McDade have had it coming together, I think. Yeah, they have. So McDade then is on the inside here. They're going to go through Magnus and Beckett side by side. So as you can see here, Taras has got contact then on McDade again. So we need to see this in its entirety. And all of a sudden then, Simeon's now closed up. And this may be the opportunity for someone like Race or Van der Kukel. They could potentially close up here. They're not far behind. They're side by side then as Taras tries to indeed hold on to the position that McDade had as they come up towards Stowe. McDade's going to sweep it around the outside. He's going to hope that Taras runs wide and then go underneath him. He's not quite close enough there, but yeah, there was definitely contact twice there for sure. McDade then fakes to go up the inside and now opens up the outside. Taras is going to be late on the brakes there. Almost contact between the two of them. Door being left wide open. Then Simeon is going to be on the inside then of McDade. McDade's got to pinch him onto the apex then. Oh, brilliant from both of them. And Simeon, I think, is going to gain that position here. Taras is being given a bit of a freebie then because of these two as we come through that sweeping right-hander. Brilliant stuff there. That is turn one for the F1 circuit, but this is the middle of the circuit for our GT drivers here. And McDade is just about going to hang on to P4, but he's going to be furious he's not in P3. And again, it'd be nice to see what sparked that little excursion between the two of them. There's only half a second between Taras and McDade. With 2 minutes 40 seconds to go, there's more than that now, and Taras is in P3.
An absolutely delightful race so far. Two very, very strong fights going on here. We first looked at Race and Van der Kukel what feels like a lifetime ago, where I want to say Van der Kukel, if he manages to maybe let off the gas a little bit going into club to try to get the undercut onto Race for 2 laps in a row, he stayed alongside, and that's where he lost the 2 or 3 tenths out going on to the start and finish straight. So I wonder if Van der Kukel's going to do something different there. But then absolutely fantastic as well between McDade and Taras, and that's for the all-important P3 position as well. Really, really delightful stuff from all of these drivers. And considering that the front two are frankly running away with it right now, it's good to see so much action up and down the field.
Yeah, but it has to be. Taras has to take a chance. McDade has to take a chance. You know, this is the final opportunity. There's 1 minute 44 seconds left of this race, and whoever finishes in that top 3, they're through. You know, it's as simple as that. I told you there's going to be some chances taken. I told you there's going to be some moves and shakes, and well, This final lap that we're about to embark upon is going to be fireworks all over the place, although McDade makes a huge error there, and we've seen him run off the circuit on the previous lap, and it takes a couple of laps for the tyres to get back into a good range, and ultimately we're seeing him struggle there with grip as he runs side by side with Simeon as well, and I think Simeon might have got him.
We've got a Quantum Pay replay here as well of that earlier move. Chris McDade and Taras. Let's take a look at what went on here.
Yeah, Taras is just sent it on the inside. He had no right to make that move, I'm afraid. If he'd managed to indeed keep hold of a car onto the circuit and leave a car's width on the outside, and maybe even if he ran onto the curb, Taras, you could maybe say, oh, okay, they're right on the limit, they're just battling for position. He's just punted McDade off the circuit, and he ran off the circuit as well. So
I like what McDade did afterwards, though. He went off the circuit, and he clearly could have rejoined the circuit with a speed advantage to Taras. And he went, even though that might have happened earlier, McDade actually slowed the car down a little bit and made sure that Taras kept the track position when he rejoined the track. So that was nice of him, at least.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that's ultimately one of McDade's biggest faults. If there is such a thing with him, he is far too nice on the race circuit. He could be a little bit more aggressive. He chooses not to, and that's why he's one of the most liked around, to be honest. He's very, very quick, but ultimately, yeah, he can be a little bit too nice. I'm not saying he should have just jumped on there and took the driver out. That was the perfect execution there. That's what you expect from every driver, really.
Sure, of course.
But in other situations where he could squeeze someone, or he could, send someone onto a curb, for instance, he just chooses not to. So I think, yeah, he was always going to yield from that spot.
And well, Baldwin and Statsenko out in front. I have a feeling they are not super strongly racing each other right now. They know that they are through. An absolutely delightful drive from James Baldwin. Mikhail Statsenko, though, in P2. Absolutely wonderful drive from Lights the Flag from him. These two are going to be very happy with themselves today.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether over the last half a lap, Statsenko might just have a go here, just to kind of let Baldwin know that, oh, hold on, maybe there's a new kid on the block here.
Oh,
I'm not sure he's quite close enough, but yeah, I'm not sure if I think Baldwin may have just kept him at arm's length more than anything, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, this is perfect for both of them. They're both through. They don't care. They have no idea the carnage has gone on behind them, ultimately. Taras in P3 as it stands. Again, it'll be a provisional result. I think that will be looked at for sure. But these two, again, don't have to worry about it. A few corners to go here. James Baldwin, who just wins and wins and wins and wins and
That's
wins.
what he does.
And then on Sundays, he does it twice. But here on Friday, James Baldwin, first attempt at qualifying for the semi-finals in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge. And James Baldwin will indeed progress to the semi-finals.
Fantastic. So have a little bit of a wiggle there. He knows what he has done. Absolutely delightful race from James Baldwin. Mikhail Statsenko, though, just behind him. Yes, Baldwin was driving within himself and was comfortably holding him off, but Statsenko also didn't put a wheel wrong and managed to keep up to Baldwin the entire race as well. Victor Taras will go ahead and grab third place. So that is provisional, of course, subject to adjudication and the stewards confirming the result. He certainly had the pace there at the end. I don't know if McDade picked up some damage, but Taras finished the race something like 4.5 seconds up on him.
Yeah, maybe he did. I think that's the first contentious top three we've had in terms of that. It was very clear that Taras just driven McDade off the circuit to make the overtake. I'm not sure it was intentional. It could have been very much just missed time, just braking, tried to be, I don't know, got onto the grass a little bit, maybe onto the marbles, but ultimately it wasn't a clean move. We all saw it with our eyes. And I'm sure that there'll be something done about that. But ultimately, McDade finished 4.5 seconds back, like he said. So something else has gone awry there as well. Simeon was involved. So yeah, all three drivers. I don't know what's gone down. We missed it ultimately. But the top two, that's what we really need to be talking about right now. Statsenko and James Baldwin, more to the point as the race winner. Those two looked very quick indeed. And Statsenko, that's the first time I've heard of him. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, potential favourite going into the semi-finals for sure.
Yeah, he definitely has to be a contender. I mean, it feels like he was in control of that race from beginning to end. He didn't feel the need to drive away and try and pull out a big gap. We don't know how big a gap he could have pulled. At the end of the day, he started on pole ahead of Statsenko, sure, but it was a 10th in it. So maybe
maybe he couldn't have got the gap at all, John.
Maybe.
Like I don't want to discredit Statsenko at all.
We've got no idea.
he's hung around there nicely, you know.
Yep.
If Baldwin wanted a really easy race and he had the pace to have a really easy race, he would have had a really easy race. So I know him far well. He doesn't have an off button. He doesn't have a, oh, I'm just going to chill with this guy behind me. He'll want to try and put a gap between him. So I think we've got to give credit where credit's due. Statsenko, that was an exceptional performance.
I'm also looking forward to seeing whether or not we had Niels van der Kukel overtake Leo Race on the last lap. I know they were nose to tail for so much of that race, and we were watching that fight. It was absolutely delicious. It's a pity it wasn't for a podium position. It was really, really good action, but nonetheless valuable points for both drivers. So I'm just keen to see if those positions were reversed or if Race was able to successfully hold him off. He was defending quite well as well.
Yeah, it was like those two had raced each other many times before, and I'm not sure they have. So it's kind of like they knew exactly the limits they could go with each other. It was clean, it was cool, it was very concise. The perfect room was left around all of the circuit. And yeah, it was hopefully we get to see both of them in the semi-finals, so we get to see them race like that again.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at our final results in the sports car race sponsored by Splunk. And there we go, James Baldwin and Mikhail Statsenko, P1 and P2. Victor Taras in provisional P3, just ahead of Chris McDade and Dragos Simeon in P5. Van der Kukel did indeed take track position and finished half a second ahead of Leo Race, what I think must have been the last lap. That was a really tense battle, 28 and 26 points respectively going to those drivers. Marco Jonkers then, Sebastian Apostol and Christian Berendea will complete your top 10. Matteo Blotto and Andre Miclea then will finish out our top 12, bearing in mind that they still get valuable points. Now, I don't think Blotto, I don't think has qualified or maybe hasn't been here that many times before. But if you're getting points like that, Luke, and you've been here for all 5 months, that will get you to the semi-finals.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Like, there's no two ways about it. Consistency. There's two ways of qualifying in this. There's being consistent, and then there's doing it as a one-off and winning races. Simple as that. So
yep.
This is the battle you're talking about. Van der Kukel and Race. Fair play to both of them. Really, really exceptional stuff from them both. And then this is the yes. I don't need to talk over that one, ladies. Everyone's a commentator when that sort of thing happens. No, I don't need to tell you what's gone on there. As you can see here, McDade trying to go through side by side, and again, Taras was never leaving him any room there at all, was he? It's unfortunate how that's gone. The fact that McDade's actually as close as he is, even so on the exit, it basically gave Simeon a bit of a freebie. But I think genuinely that's the first time it's been contentious, really. The top three, Simeon and McDade, that's brilliant for both of those two. That's perfect side-by-side action. We've seen McDade and Taras racing for the best part of 15 minutes before that had happened, and there was no incident between them. So again, it was probably an isolated incident, just a mistake. But ultimately, it's probably cost McDade a top 3 here.
So that was your sports car race with James Baldwin and Mikhail Statsenko finishing 1 and 2. Victor Taras in provisional P3 ahead of Chris McDade. If we go back to what we had earlier on, these are your stock car standings from the start of the night. And my God, what a race that was. Luke McKeown, Matt Caruana, and Vincent Bilardell in those top 3 spots in an incident-packed race at Daytona that absolutely lived up to expectations. Grzegorz, Kluna, Valero, Vossier, Holliper, Toth, and Bila will make up your top 10, and behind them we had David, Sepulveda, Chagnon, Kashkin, and Navarro. But it wasn't that. The field was significantly bigger than that. Stedman, Roos, and Bisayon are down to 18th place. And after that, IFL Dano, Thomas Illman, Detwheeler, and Lou Mayoki, who the majority of those drivers were involved in an incident of some description throughout that race, which was absolutely incredible to watch. We then moved on, of course, to the open wheel at Interlagos, which was also very entertaining to watch. Peter Berriman and Johan Haag tried to make it as boring as possible as they basically stuck nose to tail for a delightful 1-2 finish. James Pinsker also was great in P3, able to finish comfortably ahead of Norbert Leitner, but that's when it all got very interesting indeed. Tamas Simon, Leon Penn, Philip Schiff, and Brian Pigmans will manage to make up the top 8. Personi, Shadbolt, Armstrong, Backman, Cedric Bill, and William Chadwick will round out the 14 drivers in the open wheel. An absolutely delightful start to this weekend's races, Luke. Even when we had drivers out in front dominating, all of the races were super entertaining.
Yeah, they were really good, and it just bodes well as we've got through. It feels like the races have got better and better and better over the 5 months, and now we head to the semi-finals, and I genuinely believe that we have got, from all three of those races today, some of the favourites to go out and win the region in each discipline. So we've just added the talent pool. We made the talent pool bigger, and especially right at the sharp end of the grid. So next week, that is going to be super, super exciting.
Everybody who qualified in months 1 through 4 will be taking note from that for sure. Also, a reminder that you can win as well. It's not just the drivers on track. Use !giveaway in the chat and visit the link for a chance to win exclusive Logitech G gear. Make sure you go ahead and do that throughout this weekend. Best of luck to everybody who enters. Also, a massive thank you to Splunk, Logitech G, Quantum Pay, and McLaren for helping us put on this show. This was EMEA. We are going to be coming down now, but we're then going to be coming back later on this evening for APAC, where we do all of this again. This is only the first of 4 regions that are going to be going on this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and make it an even better one after a fantastic start to EMEA. See you then.